Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about the kettlebell rack step back lunge. This video is part of a big series of videos meant to be watched in order so that people can learn kettlebell technique on their own at home. So it follows a logical training progression. We start with deadlifts, we go to swings, we go to hand swings, then we learn cleans and rack position, then we add some basic pressing. Then we go to our squats. Now we're gonna start introducing step back lunges. Step back lunges are taught after squats because they require foot movement and they put more stress on one leg at a time. To me, this is probably the most important kettlebell lunge drill, and I think that this is probably one of the best lunge drills in all of training. Because you're holding that kettlebell up high, there's a penalty if you try to lean forward when you stand up. It's a simple training trick, but it helps people improve their overall dynamics pretty quickly. This drill is going to lead into a series of Turkish get-up drills. And we teach Turkish get-up both from the top down and from the bottom up. That will make more sense further along in this series of videos, but this is the first step towards a get down. Step up to our kettlebell, 2 feet pointed straight ahead. You will notice this cue is the same in deadlifts. It is the same in swings. It is the same with cleans. It is the same with clean and press, and it's the same with squats. The same setup for every exercise because they will all eventually transition into each other. Pick up the kettlebell with good technique to our rack position. Elbow, wrist, pinky, all in one vertical line. Handle down at a 45-degree angle. No gap between our hand and the corner of the bell. Thumb at collarbone height. We are going to tap our leg. That is the leg we are going to step back with because that's the leg we will step back with in Turkish get-ups in future drills. Step all the way back, put your knee all the way down on the ground. We don't want to float here. I want you to lean back, drive this hip forward, squeeze the glute, feel a stretch in the front of this hip. Make your spine as vertical as possible, eyes out in the distance. Arms straight out to the side, drive up through the lead leg heel, stand all the way up. At the top, straighten your legs, fire your quads, squeeze your glutes. Step back, put your knee on the ground, lean back, drive the hip forward, stand all the way up, squeeze your glutes. Drive that rib cage down. Step back, lean back, drive the hip forward, drive all the way up. With this exercise, we are not going to float the rear leg, even though that would be harder. In the beginning, we want people to put the knee all the way down, lean back, and then figure out how to drive out of this heel from a dead start. By putting this knee down, we force ourselves to use the full range of movement of this lead loaded leg. Drive up through the heel, squeeze everything. When you finish your reps, set the weight down with good technique. Your feet should still be pointed straight ahead, and repeat on the other side. Pick up the kettlebell, elbow at hip height, thumb at the level of your collarbone, arm out to the side, eyes straight ahead. Step back. People will find one leg will not want to step back as far as the other leg. Take this opportunity to balance it out. The goal is to not have this lead heel off the ground. Go back so far that that heel is flat on the ground. Drive up out of it. Straighten everything. Squeeze the glutes. Step back, knee on the ground. Get the weight in that lead leg heel. Drive up, squeeze the glutes. Step back, load the hip, drive up, squeeze the glutes. Put the kettlebell down with good technique. Feet are still pointed straight ahead, and you will end up in the same setup that you had for your squats, that you had for your clean and press, that you had for your swings. Many people in the beginning, when they're learning lunges, will try to rock forward to drive out of this leg. The kettlebell makes it really hard to do that. The further you lean forward, the heavier the kettlebell feels. So lean back, learn to make your spine vertical, and drive up with that straight vertical spine. This exercise is one of the few drills that will naturally over time encourage people to have better lunge dynamics just by repeating the drill. Holding the kettlebell in rack position and doing any type of lunge series will over time make your core work better, will make your hips work better, will stretch your hip flexors. That is the point of all kettlebell training, to convince athletes involuntarily to have better overall alignment so that they can learn to then transfer to other types of lifting later on. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about the clean step back lunge. We are going to add a clean to that step back, which acts as a spinal and hip reset to help people to learn to stand up better, faster. With today's drill, we are going to step back 12 to 18 inches between the bell and our lead toes. Our handle is still perpendicular to the line of our body so that we can point our thumb backwards while we do the clean. Pointing the thumb backwards forces people to straighten out their elbow, and if something were to go wrong, the elbow bends this way. Pointing our thumb back when we are learning is a safety technique. Start with the kettlebell out in front, get down. The L of our hand goes to the L of the kettlebell. Push the weight back, as we have worked on in previous drills, get to our rack position. Step back, put the knee on the ground, drive the hip forward, make the spine as vertical as possible. Drive up out of that lead leg foot, return all the way to standing. Squeeze the quads, squeeze the glutes, drive the rib cage down. Add a clean, push back, stand up, knee on ground, drive hip forward, stand up, push back, catch in rack position, gently, this should not hurt, put the knee on the ground, lean back, drive the hip forward, make the spine as vertical as possible, eyes look out in the distance, drive up through the leg, push back, catch, step back, drive the hip forward, feel a stretch in the front of the hip, stand all the way up, push back, set the kettlebell down out in front, return to our standing position. The point of adding the clean into this step back lunge is that it changes the way we're standing every time we stand up. We stand all the way up from the lunge, get perfectly vertical, squeeze our quads to straighten out our knees, squeeze our glutes to protect our lower back. Our glutes are big muscles, and if they are fired and they are solid, then they take stress away from our lower back. This is an easy way to slow down lunges. If you just do lunges, people oftentimes get very tired. Either their shoulder gets tired from holding onto the weight, or their core gets tired, and over time, they tend to deviate away from the pure standing position. Adding the clean at the top is a reset. It slows people down, it changes the way that they breathe, and it helps them work on combining core firings. Core fire from the clean, core fire from the lunge. The more complex the core firing gets over time, the better and faster we get the athletic training result that we want. Let's demonstrate it quickly with the other hand. Kettlebell, 12 to 18 inches away, thumb points down so that thumb points back, drive back with the kettlebell, stand up. Squeeze the lat, drive the shoulder away from the ear. Elbow, wrist, pinky in a vertical line. Step back with the opposite leg. That helps us lead into Turkish get-ups later on. Drive up, straighten the quads, squeeze the glutes. Reset with the clean. Push back, catch. Step back, drive the hip forward, drive up through the lead leg. Push back, catch. Step back, knee all the way down on the ground. Learn to drive up from a dead stop. Return to standing. Push back, catch, step back, drive the hip forward, stand all the way up. To set the kettlebell down, push the weight back and then track it down back out in front of you before returning to standing. The great thing about kettlebells is that they combine basic movements together better than any other piece of equipment. So the complexity gets higher. Athleticism and life are complex activities. They are many basic moves combined together. The place that we work on with the kettlebells is the place in between other main types of movement. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to introduce the half kneeling clean. Today's movement is a half kneeling position. Think of this as the bottom of the lunge. In previous videos, we had done a lunge, put our knee on the ground, and then stood up. In this drill, we are just going to be doing a kettlebell clean in the bottom of the lunge with the knee all the way down on the ground. If people have trouble learning to fire their glutes in specific actions, we continue to make drills where we break apart the positions and we have people work on their basic movements like the clean in these different bases of support so that their glutes learn to fire differently, so the movement of the hip snap changes, so that the core is in a different position. And every time we change that position, you learn to fire your core better and you learn to breathe better. Step up to your kettlebell, put the kettlebell directly between the insteps of your feet. Step back with one leg. The lead leg hand will be the one holding the kettlebell. This is specifically because when we do our clean, it is the easiest to learn. If we were to do it with this hand, people would be likely to hit themselves in the leg during the learning process. That starting position with the kettlebell equal with that lead foot instep is key. Front foot should be pointed straight ahead. Thumb points up, thumb points down. The same coaching cue that we have been using throughout this series. Same idea, we are gonna push the weight back, keep the kettlebell close to your body, elbow stays close to hip. Drive the hip forward, elbow stays close, catch. The rack position continues to be the same. We are changing the base of support, but the clean stays the same. Thumb points up, thumb points down, hip drives back slightly. It's now in flexion, push the weight back, extend the hip, knee, hip, shoulder in a vertical line. Push the weight back, catch. As we push the weight back, hip goes back, hip goes forward, catch. Hip goes back, hip goes forward, catch. Hip goes back, hip goes forward, catch. When we put the weight down, push the weight back, set the weight all the way down in line exactly where you picked it up, in line with the instep of the lead leg. On the other side, instep of your foot and the kettlebell are equal. Step back, put your knee on the ground, drive back. 90 degrees with the lead leg, 90 degrees with the rear leg. Lead leg hand, thumb points up, thumb points down. Push the weight back, catch. Push the weight back, catch. Push the weight back, catch. Push the weight back to set it down. The kettlebell should end up with that handle vertical when it returns to the ground. The beauty of kettlebells is that they are easy to swing in a bunch of different positions. The standing position, the lunge position, now the half kneeling position, the bottom of the lunge. We are deviating from a vertical spine from our hip. Our spine is not moving, it is our hip that is doing the job. We are working on developing athletic skill by developing our basics and then by repeating them and combining basics in different ways. You need to make sure you are doing an equal number on both sides of the body. In the beginning, putting your knee down on the ground like this is challenging for most people. So most people will need to put something under their knee, whether it be an ab mat or a folded up towel or a couch cushion. Something underneath the knee to keep it from grinding into the ground. Over time, as your knees become more mobile, it will become less necessary, but in the beginning, make sure you're considering safety with everything you do. Put something underneath your knee and then work on getting to that vertical position. Hip drives forward, squeeze the glute at the top, and make your spine vertical. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to work on a clean step back lunge clean. Right now we are working on what are called Turkish get-up breakdowns. We are learning the Turkish get-up, getting up off of the ground with weight, and we are breaking it down into its component pieces so that you can learn all the correct muscle firings in order to support the greater athletic skill. We do this with all skills that we practice. Every skill can be broken down into small pieces, and then those pieces can be practiced individually so that you can work on components of each one. Then we add the skills together over time to get more complex athletic activity. With this, we are working on our step back lunge. We are putting a clean at the top and the bottom so that there will be a vertical spine reset at the top and bottom. The L of our hand will go to the L of the kettlebell. We will hold in the corner of the kettlebell. The thumb, The pointer finger and the middle finger will be doing the dominant part of this grip in the corner of that kettlebell. We want to avoid holding in the middle because that will change the way our clean works over time. Start with 12 to 18 inches between the bell and our feet. Point your feet generally straight ahead. This helps our ankles, knees, and hips be more vertical. The more we turn out in this position, the more we are likely to do something weird to our knee. Easiest way to do it in the beginning to get the most benefit is to just point those feet straight ahead. Push your hips back to start with the kettlebell clean. Push the weight back, bring it up to our rack position. Elbow, wrist, pinky in a vertical line. We don't want our wrist to be bent. If it is bent, adjust the bell down at a 45-degree angle. Get your hand in the corner of the bell. After we have done the clean, step back, put the knee on the ground. We call this half kneeling position. We are looking for 90 degrees in the lead leg, 90 degrees in the rear leg, knee, hip, shoulder in a vertical line. We're gonna add a clean at the bottom. Push the weight back, catch. Make the spine vertical, look out in the distance, drive up. Add a clean. Push the hips back, catch. Knee on the ground, pause. Drive the hip forward, squeeze the glute to feel a stretch in the front of the hip. Push the hip back, drive up. Vertical, drive up through the lead leg. Pause, push back, catch. Step back, knee on the ground, drive the hip forward. Push back, catch, drive up. After you have completed 3 to 5 reps, push the weight back and then let it drift out in front so you are setting the kettlebell down in the safest way possible. The goal of kettlebell lifting is always to lift more weight longer. We are working on developing our work capacity. That means that over time we will learn to not put the weight down. We get better at that by doing 3 things: the unification of structure, breathing, and movement allows us to develop endurance. We get to endurance by focusing on structure. Where we put our feet matters. Where we put our knee matters. So going through these coaching cues one step at a time, and if you need to, saying them aloud will help you get better faster. That is always our goal. How do we get the most training benefit in the least amount of time? This exercise starts from standing, gets us to a half kneeling position, halfway to the ground. It does part of a get up and then returns us to standing, and then we disrupt that standing position with the clean. By having a kettlebell in one hand, the muscles on the opposite side of our body fire harder to stabilize us, to bring us back to center. Just by repeating these drills, starting with a lightweight, doing 3 to 5 reps and adding sets, and then going to heavier weights over time, you will develop a stronger core, the muscles in the center of your body, and they will all learn to fire equally. The muscles in the front, the muscles in the side, the muscles in the back, the muscles at the top and the bottom. Having a stronger core and working our way through the movement and learning to breathe longer helps us get to our athletic goals faster. Do different versions of this step back lunge on different days in any type of training program. Focus on your breathing. Inhale when the weight is going down because that's when the weight is heaviest. Exhale on the catches. Add more breaths if you need to slow yourself down. At this point in learning kettlebells, we are more concerned with making sure our structure, our skeleton is lined up than we are with anything else. Speed comes after you can line yourself up.